I often get ID'd as well when it comes to people that I meet. People genuinely don't believe that I'm 22. So
I'm 2 seconds away of asking you for your ID.
when it comes to trying to start out in technology or in any sort of field, the best way to start is education. So right now we've got so much access to things online, free courses as well. You don't even have to pay for anything.
Most people learn how to cook through YouTube and TikTok.
Exactly, exactly. And so I think that that's always the best place to start. I always have to judge the intention of that meeting and whether it's a meeting for business or a meeting for a fake business proposal, you know. And I've had quite a lot of those. I think most women have.
Hi everyone, my name's Emmanuel. I am a news editor here at City A.M. I usually don't meet people who make me question my career choices, but today I have someone who's making me question my career choices. I'm here with Catalina Valentino. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, Catalina Valentino.
So Catalina, please tell us about yourself. I have done no background research about you whatsoever. I just know that you're 22, which I still don't believe, and you're the CEO and co-founder of Elixir, and that's all I know. So I'm a fish out of water here, so go ahead.
Well, first of all, starting with the age thing, I often get ID'd as well when it comes to people that I meet. People genuinely don't believe that I'm 22, so
I'm 2 seconds away of asking you for your ID, because I don't believe it.
I'll find it for you later.
Okay. So how did you start? How did you get into Elixir? I don't know your co-founder. I didn't do any research about him either because I was afraid that would give it away. But yeah, just tell me the whole journey, the whole process. I want to know more.
Absolutely.
And convince me that you're younger, that you're actually 22.
Okay, I'll try my best. Okay, so Elixir, first of all, is a series of technologies where we are building things like LiDAR technology, planning technology, sensor technology. We've got a green investment platform coming, and we plan to build a fund to then also invest into further technologies that are disruptive or in deep tech or in any other sort of vertical when it comes to tech. That's what we're really focused on right now. But our main focus is building those 3 technologies out first to then leverage them against the fund that we want to build at the end of this year, potentially next year. We are raising investment for those at the moment as well, so that's a big part of what my role is as CEO. My co-founder's chairman, he's the vision of the company, and we met probably a couple of years ago now.
When you were 12.
Yes, exactly. So we met a couple of years ago. And I was transitioning from my first startup that I had, and he was exiting his. So we kind of met at a really good time. He brought me into sustainability and ESG, something that I really had no knowledge on before that. I ended up taking a Cambridge Sustainability and Circular Economics course and learning a little bit more about that, and then also ended up advising a climate tech fund, which is focused on the sort of circular economy and deploying the 200 million of capital that they currently have into that climate tech space to reduce plastic wastage and carbon footprint as well. So that's what I'm currently focused on at the moment. Educationally, I got my first GCSE at 11. 16, I then went on to do my bachelor's degree, and then at 19 I did my master's degree. I'm hoping to do a PhD this year, but we'll see about that.
PhD at 22, that's actually insane, but that's amazing.
It would be fun.
So what do you have in mind on, what subject do you want to do your PhD on? Do you have any idea?
I do. So I'm thinking business and sustainability. That seems to be a really big focus for everything that I'm doing right now altogether. So if there's a way that I can incorporate some sort of corporate strategy in sustainability or ESG, that could be something, maybe developing like a framework or something like that. Because I'm also a special advisor to the UK Business Council for Sustainable Development. So over there, we're really focusing on driving forward policy and helping to help companies to transition to a more sustainable future. So hopefully I can tie the PhD in with that, but I can hopefully do it by contribution as well, rather than having to go through a 3 or 4 year learning curve.
And I have a master's, and I decided to stop at
Amazing.
That. I was like, I'm not going back to school. But before we unravel the deep tech that you're going to be investing in this year, just tell me why tech. What drove you to that at a very young age, and when did that come about? How old were you when you thought, like, what, this is what I want to go into? I don't want to sit in an office for 9 to 5. Just explain that a little bit more for me.
So the transition really came out of COVID, which wasn't that long ago now, but it only seems like last year. I was made redundant, so I went into the corporate and started my first job when I was 16, and so I was sort of working my way up the ladder.
What job was that?
I started in marketing. I think most of us do start in marketing.
Yeah, that was also, I was doing content writing as like in the marketing team, but that was like the first job that I did.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really great place to start as well, especially when you're trying to learn business. Marketing is a really quite easy place to start when it comes to the barriers to entry. So that's where I started out there. Then I kind of bounced between sales, operations, and different sorts of roles. And then by 2021, early 2021, unfortunately I was made redundant due to COVID. So at that point I was looking for jobs, I was really trying to get back on my feet, and then I don't know quite what happened, but I think I was watching a video and I somehow got inspired, ended up registering a company and then starting from there. It
was one of those like YouTube ads where it's like, you can start your own business too if you just pay £1,000 for my course. Don't tell me it was one of those.
First of all, I hate those types of ads.
But it worked on you.
It did work on me.
Okay, so, but you were 17 when you decided to register your own company?
I was approximately 18, I think it was, 18 or 19.
And what, like, you just lost your job and you were 18. What pushed you to decide that you want to start a company? I know at 18, I did a gap year. I didn't start uni until I was like 19. I did 18 to 19, I did a gap year. So at that time, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to start my own business. I was the one skipping all those YouTube ads of them trying to sell me a course. So what pushed you to basically go the route of, I'm going to start my own business at 18 instead of just, you know what, forget this. I'm just going to go to uni and just, be a normal student and, live my youth, basically.
I think I've never been that normal kid. I've always been sort of outcast in that. I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs start, really, isn't it? I mean, right from that early age, I was always doing things out of the norm. Getting my first GCSE at 11 is something that just has a different mindset instilled in you from a young age. That's what my mum instilled into me, I think. I think that she really had this way about her where anything was possible and everything was possible. So that's kind of the mindset I started out in. And also I had the support circle around me with her. Not many people get that. Most people will probably be swayed the other way with parents who are more controlling and telling them to go down a certain path. But I was quite fortunate in that respect.
Yeah, my parents forced me to study computer science and technology, so here I am.
How am I only just finding this out? That's fantastic.
So it was interesting, but yeah, I have very, very strict conservative parents who are like, you need to go to university, you need to get a master's. If my dad had it his way, I would be doing my PhD as well. But I was like, no, thank you.
Love that.
But it's good to have that support, to parents to understand and support you whether you choose school or business or whichever future you decide for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then how did that then lead you to to go into tech though? Why tech? Why not fashion? Why not media? Why not anything else?
Well, I started off in marketing, so I went from knowing what I'd already learnt essentially in some of my previous roles, and I started a marketing agency as my first company.
And the marketing you were doing while you were still employed in the company, what was the company marketing?
Oh right, yes. So when I was doing marketing for my first company that I was a part of, they asked me to do pretty much everything. So I was supporting from all of the sort of strategy side of things, the SEO. I was doing my course at the same time as well, so I was doing an apprenticeship. But really, I was so quick at learning that I was able to help with some of the rest of the team as well. Then I left that role. I just really wasn't enjoying it. Went to work at a company called City Sightseeing, which I absolutely loved being there. The team was fantastic, and I learned quite a lot there. And so from there, I went into other companies, eventually ended up in ops, went on to start my first marketing agency, and then from there, I went on to start other projects as well. So along the sides, I was developing a sort of like an edutech SaaS platform, which I was really quite focused on driving forward as my next project. And then along that sort of timeline is when I met my co-founder, Joseph. His background's in net zero. He deployed net zero buildings across 4 different continents, and his company's best known Project Utopia, which I think he raised about 40 million for. And so after he exited that, of course, and I was moving into new different projects, we met, we were very aligned, and then I ended up starting in tech more so than I already was. So
meeting him was a kind of the pillar that got you to start, focusing on tech.
It absolutely was, yes. It was honestly, if I wouldn't have met him, I don't know where I'd be, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm sure I'd still be doing some cool things, but he was really a driving force for somebody who believed in me and now gets to see sort of what he's created almost. So yeah, I'd say he was a huge driving force to where I am right now. But my dad, actually, funny enough, I only found this out recently, but he's a programmer, like a developer and programmer, etc. So like he's also in tech.
I ran away from that.
Yes.
I ran away from doing that. Yeah, sorry, continue.
No, please, we need to talk about that later because I did actually take the Harvard CS50 course. So yeah, it was intense, but it was fun.
Yeah,
and it brought back.
That doesn't make sense to me. Intense and fun at the same time.
I have a different variation of fun.
Yes, I can clearly tell that. Yeah, explain that. So you just recently found out that your dad was a developer, and how does that change your kind of perspective of you doing tech? Do you feel like it's meant to be that you're in the tech world?
Yeah, a little bit, I think. Yeah, I think it helps because I understand where that passion lies, I suppose, because of course it's somewhat embedded into my DNA. So it was kind of a nice connecting point for me.
And walk me through your first conversation with your co-founder. You know, how did that go where you both decided this is what we're going to do? And he was like, you know what, I see something in you. Let's work together. Let's create this, you know, this monster of a company that you guys are working on, Elixir. Oh yeah, just give me a quick rundown of how that went.
Our very first meeting was not too far from where we are now, actually. We met in one of the restaurants, and it was only supposed to be a lunch meeting, and I don't think either of us were really looking forward to be honest with you. I think we both thought, I don't really know why I'm doing this, but one of our colleagues had introduced us, so we just thought, well, let's just take this meeting. So he arrives.
Good thing you guys did.
It's a very good job. He arrives, we sort of talk, we get to talking about what we're doing and what we're working on, and just sat across from me as I'm talking about what I'm doing, I just see the most inspired face that I've ever seen, and I was also inspired back, and I think we just really connected from that lunch. I was supposed to go and speak at an event following on from that, and he'd actually said that he was too busy earlier in the day to come with me to that. But actually, over lunch, I turned that around and ended up coming with me. So he came with me to the speaking event, and then we had dinner with the speakers there as well. So we basically just spent the whole day together. And then a few days later, we started talking a bit more about the projects that we've got going on. He referred me for Forbes 30 Under 30, which I haven't got yet, but it's coming, hopefully.
It's coming. Knock on wood.
And so from there, we kind of just started becoming good friends. And then I think probably a few weeks on from that, he had the idea for Elixir, or what the first iteration of it was anyways. And he got together about 8 of us at the time. We all had a different specialism. At the time, I was really good at the ops and the marketing side of things, but now I've transitioned into, raising investment, the strategy, the vision for the companies, and obviously helping on the tech side. But at the time, we all had our own unique skill sets. And so we built what was going to be more of a venture studio where we'd all be able to contribute services to help accelerate startups. Whereas now we've got some of the technologies that he's been working on, some that I've been working on, which are all combined, which we'll then use to create a fund later on. So the transition from what it was to where it is now is very different. But I think that where we are now, I'm quite happy with where we're going.
What is it that he said to you that really did inspire you? Like, what was standout things, or that drove you to be like, yes, I want to work with him, and this is what I want to do. This is going to be my future, partner in work. What was it that pushed you towards partnering with him?
I don't think it was quite so much what he said, but how he said it. He has this infectious energy, and if you ever met him, you would understand.
Yeah.
And so I think we just became very good friends.
I do hope I meet him, so maybe I'll, he'll see something in me, and we'll start another empire together or something.
A brilliant media empire.
Yeah, hopefully. You can leave City A.M. Wait, sorry, continue.
It was more about kind of the way he said it and the energy that he had. We didn't quite start out trying to build this and decide to become co-founders immediately in terms of like just having this as our full-time project, but we started working together and we built a friendship, and friendship is always built on trust, which is of course why I think that worked out really well for us, because we had that level of trust. And then we also have one of our directors who at the time was also part of this, was Jay, who's our media director, and since then the three of us have kind of stuck together, and we've added additional parties who are just fantastic. We've got a CXO, so Chief Experience Officer with the cool just X, not the and
that's catchy.
it is, and a CTO and a Chief Partnerships Officer as well. And I think what brings all of us together is that layer of trust, which I had initially with Joe, and now we've instilled into the rest of the board as well.
Okay, and I'll also get more into what is it like Elixir do? You talked about, look, you guys are looking for funding and you're focusing on deep tech. I just want to get more in depth, as in what is that Elixir does? What is the vision? Where do you see the company in the next 5 to 10 years? Very cliche question, I know, but just love to get understanding of what is it that really inspires you about this company, and where do you want it to be, and what is a finished product of Elixir, if there's such a thing?
There is actually.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So, first of all, Elixir, what I love about it is its mission. So it's not just a profiteering venture. Actually, we have ESG at the core of what we're doing. So whether that be when it comes to the social side of things, diversity and inclusion in the whole board, in the companies that we then create, that's very important for us. Whether that be on the environmental side of things, so all of the technologies that we're creating, they actually have environmental and social benefit as well. For example, our LiDAR technology is used for retrofit and decarbonisation. We have technologies such as the planning technology as well, which unifies data and people in one place and accelerating the planning system. So there's lots of different benefits to all of these ventures that are socially and environmentally beneficial as well as economically viable, which is, I think, something that most people miss. They think they have to be separate, whereas we're combining them. So for me, that's the most important part about what we do. Where I think we'll be within the next 5 or 10 years, we've got a plan. So we go.
Let's hear this big plan.
So we've got 8 ventures at the moment that we've been developing over the last few years. 3 of those are our main focus right now. We then have the rest of those which will be developing probably next year, and so on. Alongside that, next year we'll be planning to set up a fund to invest into more disruptive technologies and into founders who are inspiring as well, because we want to give more opportunity, which is also one of the SDGs. And so from the investment side of things, we then plan to create more of an ecosystem. So the startups that we have right now are individually really valuable, but what makes them more valuable is how they will interconnect with one another in the future. So similar to the Tesla technology, where they've implemented the unified namespace, which essentially means that you can link data points so that each piece of the technology can sort of communicate with one another. That's what we'll be doing with our technologies as well, what we plan to do in planet.earth. So we own the domain planet.earth, and the company that we plan to create out of that is a mixed reality. So these companies will be parts of that mixed reality that we plan to create in the future.
Yeah, like you just said, mixed reality. I was literally to ask you, what does your team consider disruptive technology? Get into like mixed reality, and what else was like, if I also start a company right now and I wanted to get your attention, what kind of disruptive technology would I have to be involved in that you would be like, yes, let's acquire that?
Good question. I think first and foremost, any technology that we want to be involved in has to have an ESG status. Whether that be something that they want to be focusing on the social side of things or environmental, it doesn't quite matter as long as there's something at the heart of it that is driving that mission forward. Secondly, from that, in terms of being disruptive, I think that's down to everyone's own interpretation, but from my point of view, it's something that is a market disruptor, something that hasn't quite been done before, something that's very innovative. So that's what we'd probably be looking at.
Okay, that's actually very interesting. So I just have to start a company that's ESG focused, and
Taking notes.
I'll get your attention. Can you maybe tell me some of the disruptive technology of companies that you've worked with or that you're working with?
Yeah, so the companies that we're working with at the moment are our own companies. So those technologies that I described to you before, with the LiDAR technology, the planning technology, sensor technology. We have some more coming over the next few years as well, in terms of a green investment platform, a sort of mixed reality or virtual reality education platform, potentially some other ventures which are yet to be discussed. But those are the sorts of verticals we're investing into at the moment. The first few are really focused on the built environment and infrastructure, and then we'll look to transition into more of the social side of things as well, whether that be the education or people and peer-to-peer communication.
Okay, and what would be the finished project? Like, what's the finished product of this? Because you talked about all these companies on, working in different verticals, or your company, which I actually had no idea, which makes it even more amazing that these are all your companies. So what's the plan for this? Or just to keep growing and creating more companies, or interlinked? Is there no finished product? Do you just keep going and growing and growing, or when it's like, yes, it's enough, let's go to Hawaii, cash out and kick our feet back and relax?
I think that if we were doing it to retire to Hawaii and get on an island, then we'd probably go about it in a different way. Our purpose is doing what we really enjoy doing every single day. And me and my co-founder, we call each other up every 10 minutes or every call that we have. Guess what? I've just done this. Oh my God, I've got this person. Wow, we're doing fantastic things over here. Look at who I've just got for us over here. We've got this partnership. Like, it was with NatWest the other day, and some other huge clients that we're bringing on board. Like, for us, it's just the build. We've gone broke together. We've transferred our last £50 to one another.
Oh, don't I know?
Yes.
Don't I know what that's like?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not easy, but somehow it's fun when you're doing it collectively. And that's the one thing I think I was missing when I was just a sole founder, and being a co-founder is much different. But back to your question, I think that there probably won't ever be necessarily a finished product. I do think the way that I can see the sort of end result of what we're doing with Planet.Earth as the end goal is a bit like a marketplace, almost like we have the App Store right now. There's no finite amount of apps. There's just an infinitive amount, right? That the apps are like our companies, and they'll all be working in unison to drive forward this new version of living or existing. So I think that's probably the best way to describe it.
That's a very good explanation. I was going to ask, your tech industry is very male dominated, and you're a 22-year-old woman. Now, how's that been like with you, working with a lot of males? Has it been, in a way, has that held you back in any way, maybe eternally? I mean, obviously it's not, because of where you are right now, but have you ever felt pressure or need to work harder, strive harder? Or has it relatively been, you're able to, show the men how to do it?
I think there's two ways of looking at this. I think I get that question a lot, and people often see it as almost a weakness, but actually I like to see it as a strength. And also, before I get on to that point, is that being in a male-dominated industry and environment makes you behave like that. If they're striving for things, that very male characteristics that men have is to be driven and constantly driving towards something and really focused. And I think that that's a positive effect that perhaps I've experienced working with so many men in the industry. But obviously there's been challenges along the way, as there is with everybody's own challenges. I'd say it's probably been tough when it comes to meetings. I think if I have somebody reach out to me and they want a meeting with me, for example, typically male, I always have to judge the intention of that meeting, and whether it's a meeting for business or a meeting for a fake business proposal, And I've had quite a lot of those. I think most women have, and it's always difficult as well being in the startup world, because you haven't quite made it there yet to be able to sort of, I wouldn't say turn them down, but it's a very difficult position of, hey, I need to do business with you, but I don't want you to get the wrong impression. So it's trying to find the right way of not dressing too provocatively for the meeting, for example, covering up very much so if you do think that is the intention there. So there are a lot of thoughts, I think, go through most women's minds when they're in business, overthinking what the intentions are, thinking, how do I dress appropriately for this, and so many other factors that go on.
Yeah, you want to keep them on your good side, but you don't want to give them the wrong impression.
Exactly.
And I'm pretty sure you've been asked this question a lot of times, and because I've not watched anything you've done, what advice would you give, women your age or even younger or older women as well who want to start their own business, who want to go into tech, maybe they're little girls who want to study computer science technology, maybe they want to get into business, but they feel held back in a way because of we're afraid that there's so many, it's a very male-dominated industry. I know when I was studying computer science technology in my bachelor's, we had like 4 girls, in our classroom and it was like maybe 50, 60 boys in my year. So I have no idea how they must have felt. So what would be your advice for girls, women alike?
I'd say don't let it hold you back. There's so many things that go around and they're circulating in terms of, how should women feel included when there's only 4 or so of them in the classroom. And I guess it depends on your view of the world as well. I mean, for me, I've always thrived in a male environment, and I don't know what that is, whether that's because I was quite close with my dad growing up. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I guess it depends on the person. When it comes to trying to start out in technology or in any sort of field, the best way to start is education. So right now we've got so much access to things online, free courses as well. You don't even have to pay for anything.
Yeah, most people learn how to cook through YouTube and TikTok.
Exactly, exactly. And so I think that that's always the best place to start. And even if you're learning on YouTube or TikTok and stuff like that, you can also go to things like read courses and take a course and get a certificate as well, which you can put on your CV or you can utilize to sort of say, hey, I've done this. Because, YouTube learning, TikTok learning, fantastic. But then also you can't show that you've learnt these things. So taking courses are always a really good way, and that's how I started out. I took like 1,000,001 different courses, didn't finish all of them, but I started them. And so the one...
finished one course that I've started online.
Terrible. Yeah, I've been there. But for the ones I did finish, there's a little certificate that they generate for you, and of course that's really helpful to leverage that against opportunities. So education was a really big part of my development when I was starting out. And then I think a lot of people could say like mentorship is important, but it's always very difficult to get mentorship. So if there's anybody, even just a family friend around you, my best friend, for example, she's actually gone to find people who are in her circle already. You don't have to go out of that circle. But if you do want to, LinkedIn's a great place to start because you can connect with anybody.
I was just about to ask you, this is actually a question from one of my colleagues.
Okay.
Why LinkedIn? Especially nowadays where most people choose more traditional platforms,
Yes.
like YouTube and Instagram. Why LinkedIn, and how wasn't it like more, say, tougher? Wasn't it tougher to grow on LinkedIn and to start a business and to connect with people on LinkedIn rather than just vlog your process on YouTube and be an influencer through the YouTube audience or the Instagram audience? Why did you choose LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, I think, came more naturally to my skill set. I always liked writing when I was younger, and so writing posts, text form posts, was something that came way more naturally to me than picking up a camera.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and it just doesn't come naturally to me, and probably to quite a lot of people. Everybody's trying to get onto the video platform side of things now, which is great, but LinkedIn's a really great place to start if you don't necessarily like to be in front of the camera all the time. So I started there. It was actually easier to grow on LinkedIn, in my opinion, than it is on more saturated platforms. And then as I sort of grew that sort of following out a bit more, I was put in touch with creator managers there, and they obviously help you in giving you opportunities and things like that. So I think LinkedIn for me, it's a no-brainer because my whole purpose, vision and life revolves around business. So why not grow on a business platform where I can then connect with anybody with credibility in my profile?
Okay, that's actually very interesting. And how's a regular work week like for you? How's your schedule like? I'm sure one minute you're here, another minute you're there, another minute you're here with City A.M. doing an interview and for Forbes, or you did a TED Talk, I think.
I'm going to do one in March.
I just started your LinkedIn profile. I didn't go into it, so but yeah. How's your schedule like?
Different.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Very diplomatic.
My schedule, So I typically stretch my weeks around events. So let's say I've got an event on Thursday, then the rest of my week will be planning towards that, or maybe Monday, Tuesday I have my meetings, and then on the Thursday I'll make sure that my time is focused on preparing for that event, for example. If it's just a meeting heavy week and there's no events going on, then I will just have a crazy back-to-back schedule. But really every week is so different and it's so difficult to answer that. The only thing that I can answer is that I'm very efficient with my time, and that's something I recently talked quite openly about as well, because that's something I learned a lot in 2023, was I get a lot of, can I pick your brains messages, or let's have a call, I think we could find some opportunities. And so I always say, well, if you've got an opportunity, bring it to me. Don't sit on a call with me for 30 minutes hoping to get something out of it. And so I did used to take quite a lot of those calls and trying to take calls and meetings about meetings and all of those.
Let's have a meeting about having a meeting that we can then have a meeting about.
Exactly.
Okay, just send me an email with everything you want to talk about.
Exactly.
Bullet points, you know.
Exactly, and that's way more efficient. And so I think that was something that was really quite a pinnacle moment for me of realization, where I realized that actually productivity is business and is life. And so my meetings are arranged accordingly. I don't actually take a meeting where I'm not needed. For example, in one of our technologies that we're building right now, the planning technology, rather than being involved in every single conversation, there was one that I wasn't actually needed on last week that I was put onto, and I said, look, you don't need me, you can get on with it. And I took myself out of that call. So that's kind of what I do with my weeks. Obviously I'm in different events, different cities quite often now. That's kind of peaked since Q3 of last year. I'm just back-to-back traveling, which gets intense. You know, I went to COP and I didn't see any of Dubai.
Yeah, that happens when you go to an event, you know, and then you end up not actually experiencing the new country or city or whatever that you're going to for the first time because you're just so busy. And how many hours, you know, would you say you work a week? And a lot of people say they want to start their own business. They can work less and work their own hours, but you end up working 120 hours a week. So how's that like for you? How many hours would you say you work a week?
Probably all of the hours that I'm awake.
Oh, yeah. That's why I don't do what you do.
But, you know, I think, you know, people get it wrong in terms of it's the hours that you're putting in, because some of those you're not intensely working, you're just always switched on, and you might just kind of get inspiration and pick up your laptop or something in the middle of, I don't know, watching a film with your partner or something. You know, that's just the way things work. It's not to say that you're just slaving away at your computer the whole time, but also it's very difficult to sleep sometimes, so there's so many ideas in my head, so again that kind of has a knock-on effect on my meetings sometimes. So
yeah, I think that's all the time we have. I mean, I'm really excited to see so many of the ideas you have in your head come to life. You just proved to me why I do not want to start my own business, and I'll stay as a journalist. But it's interesting, you know, being a journalist, I get to speak with people like you. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
I have to check your ID and to make sure you're actually 22. We're not going to get that on camera because we don't want anybody to steal your identity or anything. But thank you so much for coming. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Emmanuel.
Thanks.